Jai Nandar, everyone. My name is Rihi. As Bhumni mentioned earlier, I'm one of the YJA Education subcommittee members, and tonight I'll be talking a little bit about the journey of Jainism through ancient India. And I thought it was very fitting for the first day of Paryushan to see kind of how far Jainism has come throughout the years and from its origins and beginnings, and eventually what led to us all being here tonight and being able to celebrate Paryushan and Das Lakshan together as a community. Next slide, please. Cool. So Jainism originated in the Magadha kingdom, which is in the modern day state of Bihar. It would later become part of the powerful Maurya and Gupta empires, which are very important to the spread of Jainism due to the kings and other royal leaders who were huge proponents of Jainism. Bhagwan Mahavir was also born in this kingdom around 500 BC. So this general area was a part of the Gangetic Plains and was overall very conducive to Jainism, as we'll see later in the presentation. And just a disclaimer, I should have mentioned this earlier, but this is by no means a comprehensive overview of the spread of Jainism through India. Just a very quick and brief timeline of how Jainism spread. Next slide, please. Thank you. So we're going to go by region. So Jainism originated in the Magadha kingdom that I mentioned earlier, kind of northeast India. So that's where we're going to start. It had the highest concentration of Jains initially. And the story begins with the Sasanaga dynasty around 413 to 343 BCE. Kind of a highlight of that dynasty was King Chetka and with the Lichavi princes. So it begins with King Chetka. He was one of Bhagwan Mahavir's immediate relatives. He was the ruler of those Lichavi princes in the region, and he gave his sister, Princess Trishula's hand in marriage to King Siddharth, who became Lord Mahavir's parents. And then due to this kind of direct relation, King Chetka was a huge proponent of Jainism, and scholars actually believe that all the Lichavi princes during King Chetka's rule at the time were Jains, which kind of led to a huge kind of explosion in terms of numbers, of Jains. And then moving on to the Nanda dynasty, you can look at the years on the slide. So kind of a highlight of that was King Nanda the First expedition. So basically, King Nanda the First, he led an expedition into Kalinga, which was a little further south of India. And he actually carried an idol of Bhagwan Rishabdev, and that's actually largely responsible for the beginning of the mass migration of Jains to South India as well as a number of other factors. And then following the Nanda dynasty, we have the Maurya dynasty, which was probably one of the more known dynasties for the spread of Jainism throughout India. So just for some background, Chandragupta Maurya, who was the ruler or one of the main rulers of the Maurya dynasty, he was the principal disciple of Acharya Bhadrabahu, and he joined his migration of Jainism to the south, which was actually mainly driven by a famine that Acharya Bhadrabahu actually predicted. And one of the highlights of that is that Chandragupta Maurya actually died by observing Salikhana, which is a peaceful death, at Shravanbegola, which is one of the main Jain tirths, after following the life of an ascetic for 12 years. So being a royal leader, he kind of propagated Jainism further south into India and even in the northeastern parts as well. Kind of moving past the Maurya dynasty, we're gonna skip a few thousand years into the future. And then we're going to move to the city of Mathura in the north. So if you look in the top right of your screen, you'll see a Jain stupa. Stupa was discovered in the caves of Mathura, which is actually one of the most prominent cities for Jains in North India. It basically depicts kind of how Jains worshipped and kind of showed the prominence and importance that Jainism had in that particular city, which is evidence that Jainism had actually spread to that part of India. And then moving on from there, we also have the Mughal Empire in 1583. Emperor Akbar actually banned the slaughter of animals during Paryushan, which was a huge testament to the beliefs of Jains, and Emperor Akbar was always known for being a very open-minded and tolerant emperor, despite being a Muslim himself. But that openness was able to bring Jainism to kind of the forefront of religion in ancient India at that time. Next slide, please. Thank you. So West and South India, I noticed that there's a lot less words on the screen compared to the previous slide, but the story of Jainism as it spread further south and west into India can pretty much be perfectly encapsulated by this quote by the Cambridge History of India. So it is concluded that Jainas were probably already around this time, around 300 BC. They were gradually losing their position in the kingdom of Magadha, and that they had begun their migration towards the western part of India, where they settled and where they have retained their settlements to the present day. So it kind of speaks to the migration of Jains further south, as there were a number of things that are pushing them further south, including famine that we mentioned earlier. But once these Jains had migrated, the way that Jainism was able to kind of grow and live on in these different regions of India was mainly through support from the rulers that they got from their respective regions, kind of very much like the North and the East, where Jainism originally originated. So in Gujarat, the Rashtrakuta monarchs, which were around like 753 to 982 BCE, they were huge proponents of Jainism, and they actually commissioned the building of Jain temples, Jain studies, and overall encouraged the study of Jainism. And then moving to Maharashtra, archaeological cave excavations, they show the prominence of Jainism in the region, especially since Lord Mahavir, he visited a certain region of Maharashtra in his tour of different regions of India. And there's also a lot of Siddhakshetras, which are places where sadhus and sadhvis attain liberation in that general area, which also further fueled the spread and encouraged Jains, not just in the Maharashtra region, but also all over India as well. So that was kind of a very brief overview of how Jainism spread into all these different regions of India. But I'm sure one of the questions you're wondering is why. So we covered one of those reasons, being famine, but there's also a couple more. So number one is simple language. Lord Mahavir, he preached in Prakrit rather than Sanskrit, which was the language of the common people. So it was something that everyone could understand, no matter what caste, what social class, whatever it is that it is. It was something that everyone could understand. So it encouraged more and more people to kind of listen to Bhagwan Mahavir and take part in his ideas. And the second reason is organized religious order. So Theras, which are pretty much the heads of Jainism, they helped to spread Jainism to different parts of India and across generations after Lord Mahavir. They had a number of disciples who carried Jainism to future generations. And third thing, royal patronage. We kind of talked about this before. We had emperors like Emperor Akbar, even though he wasn't Jain, Chandragupta Maurya, and a number of other royal leaders who had significant influence and were able to propagate the ideas of Jainism in their respective kingdoms and empires, which did a lot for Jainism, especially in ancient India. And the last thing, kind of the thing I want to leave off with, is non-discriminatory treatment. So, as I'm sure you all are familiar, Bhagwan Mahavir, he preached that all human beings are equal, which appealed especially to minorities like women and people who tended to be in lower social classes. Basically, any group of people who were frequently discriminated against in society, that found themselves discriminated against by systems such as the caste system, because Bhagwan Mahavir preached. Sorry, disappeared on me. Okay. So because Bhagwan Mahavir preached that all human beings were equal, it appealed to everyone, no matter where they were from, even if they weren't from India as well. So it appealed to everyone. But yeah, that is the end of my presentation. That was a very quick overview of how Jainism spread throughout the different regions of India. If you have any questions, I can take it. If not, thank you, Bhuvni and YJA, for letting me present tonight. And happy first day of Paryushan.